is Terry Bradshaw, quarterback, Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's 7:15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
This is baseball, Major League Baseball. And this is
ABC's Monday Night Baseball, live from Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts.
Looking. He's under the gun. He's tied. He throws. It is.
Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us for another Past Our Prime show where we look back at sports from 50 years ago through old issues of Sports Illustrated. I'm Scott Johnston along with Mark Hoffman and Bill Mahoney, your three hosts of this show. And today, the November 17th, 1975 issue of SI has hockey on the cover. It says, "A violent sport turns vicious." Bill, give us just a taste of what the cover story is about here.
It's about fighting in hockey, how it's taking over the sport, where every team now is trying to get guys that want to get out there and throw down. And if you can take out the best players in the game, that's just part of the process. Just hockey's dominating, fighting is dominating hockey.
You know, the game was different back then. Fighting wasn't allowed, wink, wink. In fact, fighting was encouraged.
Yeah.
And today we have one of the all-time legends who used to drop the gloves like no other. Dave The Hammer Schultz, an original Broad Street Bully, will join us to talk about his time in the NHL and more in just a little bit. But, you know, these guys like Dave Schultz, they had jobs, and, you know, their coaches would get on them if they did not get, you know, put your dukes up.
Yeah, there used to be guys out there, and that their job was to protect, at least as hockey went on, their job was to protect the key star players. But back in the 70s, your job was just to beat people up and do what you can to get the best players out of the game.
Yeah. And send a message. Do
Yep.
not mess. Do not mess with us. I mean, the Flyers were like Mike Tyson in his prime. When they would get on the ice, other teams were just intimidated beyond belief.
But also the Flyers, a lot of teams had one guy that could fight. The Flyers had, wasn't Red Kelly there, and a couple other guys that were just smashing people. They had more than one guy. Most teams, at least that I knew, had one, maybe two guys, but there was always one main guy and other peripheral guys. If Philadelphia had two or three, four.
Well, and the other thing too, as you've mentioned, Billy, is that Philadelphia, these guys actually could play too.
Yes.
Whereas most other guys are just there for their ability, but the Broad Street Bullies could put one in the net every now and then too.
You know, the big Gretzky trade in '88. Who came along in that trade? Marty McSorley.
Because Edmonton still had Dave Semenko, which I was surprised that wasn't part of that deal. Turned out great for the Kings, but yeah.
All right, like I said, we'll talk a little bit more on that when the Hammer joins us later in the show. But before we get to the scorecard, Mark, there's a book review that you want to tell us about.
That's right. There's a book out, and it's about Joe Namath. And this is during his playing game, and it's called Namath, My Son Joe. And why is it called Namath, My Son Joe? Because it's written by his mom, Rose. And talking about little Joe, and they tell the story of when he was a little kid. You know, he wouldn't drink his milk in a bottle, so she had to put a secret ingredient in it, and it turns out it was just a little plain sugar in the milk, and then he drank it all the time.
A spoonful of sugar, right?
That's right. And Mary Poppins was the first one that thought of it.
Old school tales, new school fire. The scorecard said we'll take it higher.
Well, I'm going to talk about Indiana University, which is now becoming the best team in college basketball. The UCLA dynasty is ending, and Indiana is now on top of the world. Anyway, they played the Soviet Union basketball team, and they beat them 94-78. Just dominated this touring Soviet Union team. And there was a sign in the crowd, and it says, "Today the world Tomorrow, the Big Ten.
I love that. Yeah.
That was, I mean, good times are coming to Indiana now. Undefeated season, national championship. Oh man, the good times are about to come.
Yeah. And it starts with this season, but would go for, you know, they win another national championship, I think in 82 with Isaiah Thomas. They win a
I think it was
third under,
81.
was it
I think it was
81?
because I think it was when Reagan got shot and they decided they postponed the Oscars, but not the NCAA championship game. And
Oh,
they went
okay.
through with it. And
Then they
Indiana
win it.
beat one.
Then they win a third under Coach Knight, and I want to say 86 on the Keith Smart jumper. So, yeah, this is about to become, uh, one of the schools of that 10-year period. No question about it. Billy, what do you got?
Okay, this is Leonard Toews. He's the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, whose record is 1-7 and just a major disappointment in the NFL. Well, he was refreshingly open during an interview between halves of an Eagles loss. When sportscaster Al Wester made some optimistic remarks about progress, Toast replied, "In 7 years, we haven't made any progress at all." Wester thought, okay, I'm gonna get this back and say, hey, he says the Eagles have played well before losing on a last-second field goal. Toes said, but they beat us, and that's the point. Again, Wester tried to console Toes, but the owner said, I think you've been too kind. We've slipped a lot. I wish I could give our fans a little bit better football than we've been giving them. And now go 50 years later, the Eagles are getting better football.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they've gone a long time. They won the NFL title in 1960.
Yeah. And they went to the Super Bowl against the Raiders back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, they lost that one. They've probably been the best team in the NFC East for
Yep.
a while now.
Yep.
Because the
'Cause all the other
Commanders or
teams chip on
Redskins have been horrible for a long time now.
Yep.
You mean the
Yep.
Commanders?
Giants haven't been that good in a long time.
Giants look like they have some potential, but obviously Scatterbo.
I like Dart.
I
Yeah.
do too. And I like their defense at times.
Packing it in. Rumors persist in spite of the denials of West Coast athletic directors that the Pac-8, reorganized out of the old Pacific Coast Conference in 1959, will soon be disbanded. Imbalance between the four, listen to this, chronically weak Oregon and Washington schools. I mean, Oregon and Washington have been, they were great in the Pac-10 for a long time,
Yeah.
but not back then. And the four usually contending California teams is becoming more and more pronounced. The four northern teams together have won only 2 games from California teams during the past 2 seasons. So the speculation is that Washington State, Oregon, and Oregon State would end up in the WAC. The University of Washington's future is a puzzle, but it is no secret that USC wants a divorce that would probably lead to independent status for the other California schools as well. If that happens, the Rose Bowl would have to make some adjustments. So what happened? In 1978, Arizona and Arizona State joined the conference, making it the Pac-10. And pretty much from that time on, I would say, other than Oregon State, almost every team at one point or another was pretty good. And even Oregon State had like 35, 40 years after that was okay. But, Washington won a national championship.
Yep.
Oregon's been great for a long time. Cal was good then, hasn't been good in a long time. Stanford had some great teams.
Yep. Arizona State and Arizona were good at a certain point.
Yeah.
Desert Swarm.
Yeah. And of course, now there is none.
None.
No Pac-12.
And who knew at the time that in a lot of ways USC and UCLA have taken a step back, but Oregon just keeps stepping up.
Right, the Phil Knight money. But
Yeah.
but the Pac, there wasn't that long ago that the Pac-10 was one of the strongest conferences in all of football. It might have been strong next to the SEC, the strongest conference in college football.
Oh, I
Even
think
stronger
I
than
think
Big
I
Ten.
think even like maybe I don't know what year, 5, 6, 7 years ago, the SEC was the best conference in football in terms of like records and stuff. But there were a couple years where the Pac-10, maybe Pac-12, sent the most players to the NFL.
Yeah, but if you just go by now, they still, even though they're not a conference, a lot of their quarterbacks are still, like Fernando Mendoza, who went to Cal, now
Right.
at Indiana. Could be
Yep.
the top pick in the draft. Another guy, remember what it was at Jaden Daniels,
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
ASU. They have said so many guys, so many good quarterbacks that they're still going to the NFL. So,
Billy, who said what?
okay, I'm going to Jake Rudney. He's the Kansas City Chiefs center who finished a game after breaking his hand. Asked when he broke it. He said, I don't know. I wasn't watching the clock.
Smart ass.
Yeah. Mark?
Hank Peters, okay? So he's just been named general manager of the Baltimore Orioles. He had twice been fired by Charles Finley with the A's. And he said, he was asked about this, and he said, I taught Charlie all he knows about baseball. That's why I keep asking myself where I went wrong. So it's all his fault, you know?
Yeah. Hank Peters. Who knew? That's why the A's players hated Finley, because of Hank Peters.
Yes.
Wanted, an end to mayhem. Our cover story for this week's Past Our Prime podcast. The growing violence in professional hockey has reached a boiling point, forcing lawmakers and even players to confront the NFL's indifference after Red Wings forward Dan Maloney's assault on Brian Glennie led to criminal charges. Ontario's Attorney General Roy McMurtry warned that clear breaches of the criminal code, end quote, on the ice would be prosecuted. Meanwhile, players like Bobby Hull lamented the league's violent spiral. If something isn't done soon, it will ruin the game for all of us. Bill, there was a time when fighting in this sport was an every game occurrence, sometimes before the games even started.
Yeah, guys come out and just plow because that or hit each other because that's what they did. That's what they were doing all the time. Remember, we talked about last week that the WHA team brought in the guys from Slapshot. You know, the three guys with glasses, the Hanson brothers. You know, but one of the guys in the NHL you had to worry about was the guy that's going to be our guest, which was Dave Schultz. They said in the 1974 season, he had was it last season, Dave Schultz, 74, recorded 472 penalty minutes, an average of 6.2 a game. You know, what is it? Reading about Brad Park, he said, until this series, I always considered hockey fights something that happened after a flare-up. He said, but with the Flyers, we find that fights are started deliberately. And then they're saying Dave Schultz had said, hey, man, my job is to take out the best player. And if I go, that's fine. He goes, if I take out Brad Park and they take out me, that's not a bad trade, is it?
Right. That's a win for the Flyers.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I find it really amusing, though, that hockey is the only sport where fighting is allowed. The thinking is let them get their aggressions out. So long as one person isn't like so dominating the fight, the other person's going to get hurt, then we'll break it up. But let them get their aggressions out so then they can continue to play. I mean, could you imagine if they did this in other sports? Could you imagine in baseball, you get hit by a pitch and they go, okay, guys, don't bring the bat out. Just come on, meat, go slug it out.
All right.
Maybe Robin Ventura would have had a little bit of a better chance against Nolan Ryan, but probably not.
Well, didn't what was it Tim Anderson and Ramirez of the Indians had sort of something like that at second base?
Yeah. Jose Ramirez.
That's
dropped.
it, knocked him down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was one where Rufnado Odor hit Joey Bats.
Yeah. Yep.
And Bats didn't move. He hit him,
Yeah.
I mean, solid right in the face.
Yep.
It was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, there's still in baseball still somewhat like the surprise element because you're like we're so used to them like benches clearing and nothing happened. But in
Yeah.
the 70s, the benches would clear in hockey and a lot happened.
Everyone, I mean, I don't even know how, as a ref, you got that under control because there were times that, at least when I watched in the 70s, there could be 4 fights going on simultaneously.
Yeah.
You know, guys just beating the tar out of each other. And I never knew how the refs could choose. I mean, once they go to the ice, then they can break them up. But it sometimes takes some of these big fellas a little bit of time to go down.
And, as Mark said, not only is hockey allowed, but back
Yep.
then it was encouraged.
Yep.
I mean,
It's like a scene from Rollerball where they're all just like knocking each other out.
Yeah. Yeah.
but like we mentioned, it was funny, and I'll bring this up to Dave when we talk to him. the Flyers would get to the playoffs and they would change their style. They couldn't allow to have their better players
Yeah.
in the box. And, and that's the case a lot. I mean, you'll see playoff games now where nobody has penalties in like the third period or overtime or
Yeah.
something. And if it does, it's not for fighting. It's for, delay of game or
Interference.
something like
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
but not for fighting. So and the Flyers showed, I forget who they beat in the finals, Montreal maybe, where they could win without playing that style of hockey.
Yeah. I mean, like we said before, if Bernie Parent wasn't injured, they might have won 3 straight Stanley Cups
Yeah. Yeah. They were
and had it
extremely
together in
talented.
the playoffs. You're right, because in the playoffs, the last thing you want is your 3 best players getting major penalties or game misconducts. But the thing is, the other team by that time knew that it could happen, though.
Right.
It
Yep.
wasn't something where they thought they're not going to fight. They just thought, we don't want to turn into a street fight.
Right.
There is a little bit of intimidation when teams like that know and like to fight,
Penalty
Like I do.
minutes.
like you do,
Yeah,
Mark.
right.
Yes.
When
Yeah.
I hit
Watch
the
out
bar,
for
man,
Mark.
I like to fight.
Penalty minutes have doubled almost since 1967. So in 8 years, it's kind of an epidemic.
Yeah, if you listen to Bobby Clarke, he had said, he goes, if they cut down on violence, people won't come out to watch. He said, let's face it, more people come out to see Dave Schultz than Bobby Orr. It's a reflection of our society. People want to see violence. That's sad if you're, with that being the possibly true.
They may have to do
How many
like
people have been to a hockey game and the guys score goals and people get excited, but when there's a fight, the whole crowd stands up.
Yep.
that's true. I think they should like rated R, Flyers versus Devils tonight, rated R.
Yeah.
That's right.
Kid must be accompanied by an adult.
One of the toughest guys in the NHL from back in the day and featured in this issue was a key member of the Flyers' back-to-back Stanley Cup championships in 74 and 75. Dave Schultz was known for two things, fighting and winning, and often they were paired together. But Schultz could do more than just drop the gloves. He could put the puck in the net just often enough to keep him honest. An original member of the Broad Street Bullies and one of Philly's favorites, The Hammer, Dave Schultz joins us now on the Past Our Prime podcast. And Dave, usually I start things off going a couple questions, but my friend and co-host Bill Mahoney is so amped up to have you on the show. He's going to square off with you first. Go for it, Billy.
You gotcha, Dave. You were part of the Kings, man. They're my boys. I grew up.
Oh, yeah?
Oh yeah. Oh, diehard from the early '70s till now. But I got to ask you, okay, the issue we're talking about, November 17th, 1975, on the cover is Gary Howitt, Jude Druin, and Pete Stemkowski going at it. They're on the ice. Looks like they've had a little bit of a little fun together. What that article or what that picture showed, how it really captured how wild hockey had gotten back then. When you see that cover now, or if you saw it in the past, what went through your mind? And my biggest question, and did you ever tangle with any of those guys yourself?
All three.
I could have answered that.
Who
I
was
know
the
Howard.
toughest?
I fought Howard. I thought it was less than. I fought O'Reilly, Terry O'Reilly, 9 times, and I thought, well, Howard is somewhere in there, and he was even more. I fought him a lot. My first fight with him was not very good, because he brought in the rule no pulling hair, and he grabbed my back of my head and pulled my hair, and I couldn't even breathe. But I got even with him in the next 8 or 10 fights. He was a good guy, and he played tough for a small guy.
They shouldn't have messed with you though. At least those last 8 times.
Well, he learned his lesson finally.
But also in this article, it's centered around Dave Forbes, the Henry Boucher case, which was taking over hockey because it actually went to a courtroom trial. So from your perspective, how did hockey reach that level of intensity by 1975? And was it just teams trying to keep up with the Flyers' toughness, or had the sport itself lost control for a bit?
lost control. We had total control. Anyway, if it lost control, it was nothing more than some guys who didn't want to fight, were kind of forced to fight, and sometimes the guys they just did anything to protect themselves, and the game got a little rough and dirty. But for the most part, I don't, for me anyway, I never used my stick. I fought guys, looked them in the face, and swung away. And again, one of the things that took place was they would constantly say, fighting, well, that's not, it's the stick work that's really the worst. And then they show a picture of me fighting and say there's violence. One time Clarence Campbell said to me, because if you got a game misconduct sometimes, the referees write a report, and Clarence Campbell, I'd go after practice to see Keith Allen, and Keith would say, Mr. Campbell wants to talk to you. And I had his phone number. I'd go home and I would call Mr. Campbell, and I'll never forget the one time he says, he says, Dave, you're responsible for more than half the bad publicity on violence in hockey. And then he'd say, well, you'll be hearing from me. I never heard from him, ever.
Unless you quit calling him, Dave.
Yeah.
Well, when I called him, yeah, but he would do nothing more than read me the game report from the referee, and that's what he'd say. Well, you'll hear from me. And he was a nice man, I guess. I talked to him a few times. So anyway, the one time, the last, I guess, we were playing in Toronto, and he was in Toronto in the playoffs, and this was in 74, 75, the year we lost to the Canadians the next round, I should say. And me and Tiger Williams, we'd gone on for quite a while trying to punch each other, and finally, he kneed me, then he headbutted me, and then he bit me on my cheek. And after the game, Keith Allen, our general manager, called Mr. Campbell into the dressing room, and he says, "Come here, Dave." And I showed him the bite on my cheek. You could see teeth marks. And Mr. Campbell said, "You shouldn't have been there anyway." And that was it. Never got suspended, never got nothing. And that, of course, it was just after that season that we lost to Montreal, and I got traded. No, I didn't get traded. I ended up in LA. Never got traded. I found that. Well, that's one of the reasons I wrote my book, so I could go back and go over and over, a lot of things that happened in my career. Who did I get traded for?
Two draft picks.
Just sold or something, or
yeah, I sold all right.
Sold a bill of goods.
Well, a couple of draft choices.
Yeah.
So I never really got traded. It was the worst thing that happened to me in hockey, getting traded from the Flyers, and it was quite disappointing.
In the 1979-80 season, that was when it became mandatory that players had to wear helmets and face masks and stuff like that. You didn't have to do that for the majority of your career. Were players back then just tougher?
Tougher?
Yeah, because they
No.
didn't need the protection.
No, I mean, helmets. I mean, you could get hurt with a stick on your head, but nobody used their stick on me because I never used it on them. So, but helmets did come in. It would probably have something to do with lawsuits and insurance and all that. So but I was grandfathered in. I never ever had to wear a helmet. except when one guy knocked me on my cheek, pushed my cheekbone in, and no big deal. I was back to no. I did have to sit out a couple of games, but anyway, I was fortunate. I never got hit, and never got hurt, I should say. I've never had an operation, and to fix something. Anyway, so I was lucky. I was fortunate.
Is there an art to fighting in hockey, or is
Yeah.
it just there is? Okay.
Well, not so much an art. Nowadays it's they really they can see video. I never watched any video, but yeah, I mean, I had a way of tackling, fighting a guy, and it was nothing more than grabbing him with my left hand up on his shoulder, on his right shoulder, and start swinging. And it always got tough when a guy like Terry O'Reilly, who was a lefty, so we were both kind of wide open. So I had an advantage, I guess, too, but we'd swing away.
Dave, in this article, and you kind of just mentioned it when you would call Mr. Campbell, they talk about the double talk from the league. They didn't want fighting, wink, wink. What was the message the players were getting from the league? I mean, I know your coach, Fred Shero, he encouraged you guys to get tough, but the league kind of had to say one thing and do another.
Fred Shero, all we were to do was to follow through, take the body. Don't turn away like they do today. I mean, there's no hits in some of these games because they just go towards the player and turn away. So nothing's going to happen. And we take the body, follow through. And when you do that, it's going to happen. Simple as that. But we it was like I guess they like the fighting, and they still have fighting in the game today, but not a whole lot of it. And they've brought in rules to get rid of it, or certainly make it not happening very often. But so that's what they do, and when you get an aggressor penalty, which is I'll never understand as long as I can live, that they said the aggressor rule, which means if you're the aggressor, if I personally run Gary Howard into the boards and try and knock his head off, am I the aggressor? I think so. But it's the next person. If someone comes and fights me right away, that person's the aggressor. So it didn't make sense. But I never really had much of the effect. That rule came in right at the end. That I was there.
Was there ever a time when you're taking on an opponent and you're getting the best of him, and you almost feel bad because it's almost not fair? Like you're looking at the ref, like, hey, you're gonna step in here. I mean, you were pretty good at this.
Well, yeah. If any player, even myself, they saw that I was hurt, they'd stop immediately. I remember I didn't get hurt, but I'd broken my little finger, and I got in a fight with Bob Nystrom from the Islanders, and he immediately noticed that I couldn't get my glove off because I'd had it tied on, and he immediately stopped. And that's the way things went.
Who was the toughest player to fight? Who was the one guy maybe you respected the most?
I always say Terry O'Reilly. I mean, the fact that I fought him 10 times or 9 times, but he was a lefty, and but we had some great fights, good fights, and neither one of us ever really got hurt. And I got to know him a little bit. He's a good guy. He was a great player for the Boston Bruins. He did all their fighting. I saw a video where I'm going to fight Dave Forbes, I think, for example. And Terry O'Reilly said, "No, you're not." And he comes in and out of the players and drops his gloves and comes right in front of me. So, yeah, he was quite a player.
Did you, going back to the article that in the November 17th SI article, Bobby Clarke said that fans were coming out to see you more than they did Bobby Orr. Did you agree with that? Were you that big a fan favorite that when you came in, everyone was screaming for you?
They'd come out to see me before Bobby Clarke, but not Bobby Orr. No, I mean, there's no question. People love the fights. They love the hitting, and we were the biggest draw in the National Hockey League. In every place we went, sold out, and people they like aggressive hockey, and if they do, they don't like it now, and they don't like to play now. I mean, hockey's come a long ways. I mean, the speed, they changed the game, okay, to no center line, and no two-line pass, I should say. And you can move that puck. You go from your behind your net to the center line, step over the center line, and the puck's in the deep to the opposition goal. So it changed the game, the speed, but there certainly isn't much physical play.
Now, going back to your physical play, you come off the board, you get on the ice. When do you know it's go time for somebody? Or are you on the bench going, I'm going to go, take a poke at that guy?
If he did something stupid, I'm gonna go. Again, if he tried to run one of our guys, that's what would instigate a fight. It wasn't like after I retired, they would go, you want to go? You want to go? No, I don't want to go. Go back to your bench. I mean, that isn't how I went at it. I usually happen in a skirmish or, somebody hit somebody and, created some action. That's when I fought. I fought guys who just finished trying to intimidate one of my players.
Those Flyer teams in the mid-70s were so good. We had Bernie Perron on the podcast a while back before his untimely passing.
Yeah.
What was it like playing with Bernie, and what kind of a guy was he?
He didn't say much. Well, not to me. His defenseman. He'd make jokes again in the heat of a stoppage in play. But he focused. He was pretty focused. So he didn't. He was a great guy, though. No question about that. Loved to kibitz with the guys. But a very, he was a great goaltender. Great goaltender. When he was focusing, wasn't much going to beat him.
We're talking with Dave Schultz. And Dave, you recently wrote a book, you mentioned it, with the help of Dan Robinson, called Hammered, The Fight of My Life. Tell me and our listeners, what was the fight of your life?
Overcoming my abuse of alcohol. I never really started. I mean, I used to drink, have beer all the time, but I wasn't until I was retired that I got traded 3 times, ended up in Buffalo. I moved back to Philadelphia here, where some of my old teammates were still here. So I didn't have a lot of comrades, I guess. Had to get a job, and anyway, so I started drinking more, and it continued for 40 years, till I was 70 years old. And I had to, and I did. I went to AA through the help of one of my former, it wasn't my teammate, but a couple guys that were in our alumni, and it was the best thing I ever did in my life. Although again, when you're drinking for that period of time, things happen. I got divorced from my wife. My kids, I mean, I wasn't acting properly, and anyway, so I got rid of that, and it's been good, clear thinking. I wish I would have happened. That would have happened years ago, but it's only been 3 years.
You feel good?
Yes, I sure do.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats. It's not
great.
easy.
You know, Dave, you obviously had a reputation of being this tough guy. How did you shake that reputation after your playing days were over? I got to imagine people were always trying to see how tough you were.
Never.
Really? Good. Great.
Not to physically challenge me.
Mm-hmm.
Did fans come by and say, "Hey, hold your fist up like this and let's take a picture," all the time? Which was I didn't really like that, but anyway, so I went back to being what I used to, what I was when I was a kid, I guess, quiet and pretty shy, but again, that followed me everywhere, and but again, I never was challenged. Couple times close when I got kicked out of a game, and the fans in Detroit wanted to take me on, but they didn't. Hockey fans are just great fans, and just because they don't like you doesn't mean they don't maybe appreciate you or that type of thing. But yeah, fans just love to talk to guys, to the players, and get in their head a little bit what they're how they're doing. So it was always wonderful, particularly in Philly, of course. Not so much in Detroit. Yeah. But I never ever got challenged ever anywhere. Again, remember, if we went for something to eat and a cup of beer after a game in some of these towns, Minnesota, wherever, Chicago, they just wanted to say hi, talk. They would never challenge me. And I was always with my teammates. So, they didn't want to try.
So Dave, Scott mentioned this a little bit at the beginning. You weren't always the fighter guy. In the minors, you had 115 goals and 253 points. How is it when you went to the NHL, you became more of a fighter than you became a goal scorer? Why did they do that? Because you were on your way to being quite a deep offensive player.
I didn't. I did it. What happened was, and I didn't do it on purpose, I got drafted by the Flyers, and for some reason, the Quebec Aces, Quebec City was their farm team, and they wanted to keep some older players there because they bought that franchise for a farm team through expansion, when we expanded. And they Keith Allen said, and he knew Colin Kilburn, who was the coach of the Salem Valley Rebels, Roanoke Salem Valley Rebels. And he says, "We'd like you to go down there and play." And that was in the Eastern Hockey League. And I was always kind of a scrappy player in a way. But I never got in a fight. And I got in a fight my first game, and I said that worked. And I got in a fight my second game, and that really worked. So I started fighting, and the Eastern Hockey League, there was no easy rides there going into some of these buildings, and so I started fighting, and I ended up with 348 PIMs, scored 32 goals or 31. And the next year I moved to the American League, and I continued fighting all the time, and that the next 2 years in the American League, and then on to the Flyers. And so I had success with it. I liked, the only thing I liked about fighting was the good reaction from the fans. And luckily I prepared myself mentally. I thought about what I was going to do, and I was, I guess, able to take a punch, and it just continued, and the fans loved it. And got to Philly. I was the nicknamed the Hammer. And that continued on for the next 8 years in the National Hockey League. And again, I guess I slowed down. When I got traded, my whole life was in hockey was basically done. I mean, because it was everything was different. We weren't winning in LA, and then Pittsburgh was awful, terrible team, or we didn't win much anyway. And then I had one chance to Buffalo. They had a great team, and I played there from Christmas or beginning of the new year on, and then the next year I'm going, well, we're gonna have a hell of a team. And the worst coach in the game became my coach, and he was maybe a good coach, but an asshole.
Yeah.
Scotty Bowman, what a jerk! And the reason being, I mean, Scotty was a pretty good coach, I guess. Not when I was around, but he hated standing behind the Montreal bench, watching me in Montreal, bloody Serge Savard's face, a few others too. Okay, Pierre Bouchard, I fought him twice. So anyway, and that ended my career. I mean, Scotty hated me, never played me. Within a month, I was sent to the minor leagues, to the minors in Rochester. And I'm sorry to say, Scotty's a jerk. And in fact, Montreal Canadiens said, we won 5 Stanley Cups in a row. I don't know if that's the right number, but they said that we'd have won 8 if it wasn't for Scotty Bowman. And anyways, it was the end of my career, and I was 30 years old, and there was a movement to youth because they liked to pay guys $50,000 a year. Of course, I was making I shouldn't say 50,000, but they wanted to sign young guys, and I basically ended my career with no money. I moved 3 times in 4 years, and ended up in Buffalo, as I said, and so it was a sad ending to what could have been a phenomenal career if I'd have stayed with the Flyers.
Who gave you the nickname the Hammer?
The what's his name? A writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer. I got in a fight with somebody, and he said Schultz sure hammered him, and so that's how the Hammer came about, and stuck with me to this day.
You and Hank Aaron.
That's
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I had the ability and the career he did.
Yeah, he was hitting it.
But anyway, I can't really complain, I suppose. Well, I do complain because it was right at the same time as players. It was only a couple of years after players all of a sudden were making $1 million a year. And of course, today you don't have to be much of a player to be set for life. And I didn't make. I barely made $500,000 in all the years I played. So I'm bitching about it.
Yes, that's what we're here for. It's a therapy session.
Yeah.
And we all hate Scotty Bowman now.
What a jerk.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Scott.
I was at a banquet one time, and he was sitting in the front, and I think he left because he didn't want me to. I was speaking a little bit that night, and I don't think he wanted to hear what I had to say.
Grab your boots, it's trivia time. Past our prime, but still in our prime. Questions rolling like a tumbleweed.
A few years back, you lent your voice to an episode of The Simpsons. I think it was called Top Goon. Can you talk about that? How did that all happen?
Somebody called from that production company or whatever, and that was only a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to, I think with the 2 other players, one was was supposed to be, it was Tiger. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyways, and one other player, and Stu Grimson, I think.
Right.
And in fact, I still have my little segment on my computer here, and so that's how it happened. In fact, I seriously, yesterday I received a check. Wasn't for much, but it was a part of the big bucks payment I got. So it was kind of neat, and that's how it came about. Called the Goon. Yeah.
Yeah, Top Goon. So here's my trivia question then to you, okay?
Yeah.
True or false, the only other two hockey players that lent their voice to an episode of The Simpsons were Wayne Gretzky and Gordie Howe.
They did?
Well, that's the question. Did they or did they not?
Yeah, I'd say true.
Okay, now you're half right because it is a trick question. Wayne Gretzky did appear on the episode of The Simpsons, voice and all. Gordie Howe was in an episode of The Simpsons, but he was not his voice. They got permission to use his likeness. So they had an image of Gordie Howe on the episode, but he did not actually have an.
No, they saved that for guys like Schultz.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, Dave,
Yeah.
let me ask you, I'm sure people have asked you this before because they think the movie is based on you, which I don't think it is, but your thoughts on the movie Slapshot?
Best movie. Loved it. It wasn't based on me, although I actually was in LA. Just got traded to LA when they had the premiere of that movie, and I actually went to that in LA. But great movie, loved it. And what I say about that is, not all of those things that happened in that movie happened in the East Coast Hockey League, Eastern League, in one game, but they certainly happened. I mean, it was a crazy league, that Eastern Hockey League. Some of the things that I experienced was crazy, and the fighting that went on there. I mean, it was a wild league. It was a hell of a wake up call or whatever for me, and that's when I started fighting. And luckily, I didn't get hurt. I mean, there was a guy. Blake Ball was a big guy, but a guy LaBelle, who played for Nashville. He's about 6'4", and for some reason I was being stupid, and I was going to fight him, and he let me off the hook. And but when he dropped his gloves, he had 2 golf gloves on, and I'm going like, "Whoa, that could hurt." So anyway, it was a crazy league. It was wild. Anyway, so that's
I love that movie too. One of my favorites.
yeah, great movie.
We just actually talked about that movie. Remember, they got the Hanson brothers,
That's right.
Minnesota.
I never played against the Hats. Maybe I did. Anyway, I know my brother who played for Syracuse Blazers in that same league a year after me, and he fought one of the Hansons and tried to bite his nose off, and that's the kind of stuff that went on.
Dave, you were part, and I know Mark mentioned a little bit, the Broad Street Bullies. That's an amazing nickname. How does it feel to know that for the rest of eternity, you're going to know you're part of one of the greatest hockey teams and with the greatest nicknames ever?
Well, it's quite an honor. Okay, I mean, it was the Philadelphia fans that who loved the game, like learned to love the game, and were great fans. So they loved the tough stuff, they loved the fighting, and we provided a lot of that. So, and again, the key is the 2 championships. I mean, we were the first team to win a Stanley Cup with only Canadians. We were the last team, I should say, and we were the first expansion team to win a Stanley Cup. And yeah, we've got. I can go. I live down by near Atlantic City, half an hour away. I live by the shore, and I go down here particularly in the summer, obviously. and there's Philadelphia fans everywhere, and so we're remembered a lot. And my dear friend, lovely guy, Bernie Perrant, who just I spent some time with him in the last few years. We'd do some promotions and stuff like that, and went for dinner at his house not too long ago. And anyway, great guy. And seriously, passed away in his sleep. He'd had some pain, that he suffered from some pain from a car accident. But anyway, great bunch of guys. We were
I
very
still say
lucky.
you guys would have won a third straight if he wasn't if he didn't have the back injury. You know, but
We'd have won a third Stanley Cup if they wouldn't have got rid of me.
that's a good point. That's a good point. But has the Flyers ever come to you? You are an iconic name, iconic figure in Philadelphia Flyers history and Philadelphia sports. Have they come to you and thought about maybe putting some sort of plaque or some sort of statue of you up there because you really did encapsulate NHL at that time and that Flyer team?
My biggest question is, why did I get moved to LA for a couple of draft choices? I'll never understand. Well, I mean, part of the reason was because Paul Holmgren came to the team. Okay. But it cost them a Stanley Cup or two. My opinion. Okay. But you know, I will tell you, Mr. Ed Snyder. We all called him Mr. Snyder. Wonderful man, great owner. Such a shame that he recently passed away a few years ago now. But there's only one reason that I'm in the Philadelphia Flyers Hockey Hall of Fame. I guess you don't call it's a Philadelphia Flyers Hall of Fame. It was because Mr. Snyder wanted me there. He knew. Obviously, somebody else didn't. I mean, Keith Allen, what did he do? Dump me? Yeah. And I'll never forgive him for it. Doesn't matter anyway. But that really sad day of my life.
The book is Hammered, The Fight of My Life. Dave Schultz, a two-time Stanley Cup champion with the Flyers, and actually a very gentle soul when you think about his on-ice persona. Dave, I have to say you are the first guest on our show that in which someone was bit you. So you have that honor for us.
Yeah, we didn't have Evander Holyfield. Huh?
Yeah. It's got to be our next one.
Really want to thank you for taking some time out today and talking with us. It was a lot of fun. You're just a great dude. I wish you well.
Thank you very much, and go out and buy my book. And
Yep.
I hope that people enjoy reading it. The reason I wrote the book was to get me to thinking about what happened. How the hell did I do that? Number one, and secondly, maybe others will read the book and understand what some of the problems are. You know, because we all have problems in our lives, and again, stopping to drink, which again was a little late, but better than ever. And so I've really enjoyed my days of sobriety, and the people that helped me get there, and Todd Fedoruk, I have to mention him. Lovely guy.
Hammered, The Fight of My Life by Dan Robinson and Dave The Hammer Schultz. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Congratulations on sobriety.
Yes.
All right, let's talk a little football. A steel bit drills the Oilers. The defending Super Bowl champion Steelers prove once again why they're the class of the NFL. They beat the tough Houston Oilers 24-17 in a dramatic showdown at Three Rivers Stadium. Terry Bradshaw led the way, completing 17 of 28 passes for 219 yards, 3 touchdowns, including a clutch 78-yard game-winning drive in the final minutes. Bill, scoring on this defense against the Steelers, not an easy task. I mean, the fact Houston put up 17, that's pretty impressive in itself.
Yeah, because the after they beat the Oilers 24-17, the Steelers would just allow 19 points over the next 3 games, and that included 2 weeks later a 32-9 win over the same Oilers.
Yeah. And Mark, this Oilers team was horrible the year prior, but they're getting a lot better. And pretty soon, them and the Steelers would become quite a rivalry.
That's right. I mean, Bum Phillips really changed the trajectory of the Oilers. And, everyone remembers the Steelers on the Super Bowl champions, but the Oilers came so close to taking 2 of those Super Bowl titles away from the Steelers. In 1978 and 1979, they met in the AFC Championship game in back-to-back years. The first time in 78, they just got annihilated by the Steelers, 34-5, game in Pittsburgh. The following year, game again is in Pittsburgh. They lose 27-13. But so they couldn't get over the Steeler hump. But the Oilers came real close to playing in some Super Bowls. And it's a shame because they won AFL titles, but they never won an NFL Super Bowl. The Tennessee Titans made it, but, not the Houston Oilers.
I remember that great quote from Bum Phillips about losing twice in a row to the Steelers. He said something like, last year we knocked on the door. This year we beat on it. Next year we're going to kick the son of a bitch in.
Yeah, that's a great quote.
Great quote from Bum Phillips. They didn't, and not too long after that, there was no longer a Houston Oilers, which is still kind of crazy. But
Great uniforms.
yeah, yep.
A little
Yeah, I
oil
love
flag
that
derrick on
Columbia
top
blue.
of their helmets. It's just great.
Yeah, that Columbia blue. I wish that was their,
Yep.
still their logo.
Yep.
The Steelers offense rolled up 183 yards behind Franco Harris and Rocky Blyer. And even with key defensive injuries, the Steelers forced 3 turnovers. Bradshaw was now in full command as quarterback of this team. And, we were now, all right, they're the defending champions. They're the team to beat here. And the Super Bowl is going to go through Pittsburgh basically for the rest of this decade. All right, let's talk a little college basketball and the end of an era. We all know that John Wooden has formally retired, and Clean Gene Bartow has arrived at UCLA to coach against a legend. It's called a Night of Adoration, Wooden Night at UCLA, as they celebrated Wooden's retirement with emotional tributes, music, endless ovations, highlighting his unmatched legacy. It's a tough act to follow. New coach Gene Bartow faced the daunting task, Mark, of succeeding a legend that had won 10 national championships.
Yeah, I did it in 12 years. And the article is called Pursued by a Very Long Shadow. And there's a great picture of Wooden walking the track at UCLA. And then you can see a shadow cut across the Drake Stadium track. I mean, even though he's gone, he's not. He's still around campus. He's, walking the track. And Bartow came, he had some success at Memphis State, which is now known as Memphis. In fact, they played and lost to UCLA in the 1973 NCAA finals. And then he went to Illinois, actually struggled at Illinois when UCLA hired him. But in the 2 years he was at UCLA, he went 52-9.
Wow.
How many coaches would leave after going 52-9 in 2 years? And his first season, they went to the Final Four, but Indiana was just too good. They opened that season against Indiana and lost. And then their season ended in the Final Four against Indiana when they lost, I believe, by 14 points. Just Indiana was too good. And the following year, then Bartow's team lost in the opening round to Idaho State, which is considered one of the greatest upsets in NCAA history. And that's when he left. The pressure was just too much, and Gary Cunningham got appointed.
Yeah,
can
Billy.
Can either of you tell me where Idaho State is located?
No, that's Moscow, Idaho. No,
You could say Idaho and be right there too, but no.
Yeah.
No, Pocatello, Idaho.
That's
The
it.
Bengals, man. That's where my wife was born. Pocatello, Idaho.
Bartow chose to retain much of Wooden's staff and uphold the program's values, showing he aimed to extend the legacy, not replace it. He also, Billy, had a lot of Wooden's recruits on that 1975 team.
Yeah, David Greenwood, Marcus Johnson, Roy Hamilton, Kiki Vandeweghe, and Brad Holland. I think every one of those guys were first-round draft picks.
Yeah, that's not too bad, right there.
No, that's the team you're leaving.
That is not the cupboard being left bare. That is
No.
for sure. Oh,
What did Gary Cunningham do with these guys?
Oh, he was very successful in his 2 years too, but again, then he went to a smaller college. Uh, his heart, I don't think, was in coaching, and then Larry Brown came in, and Larry Brown's first year, that looked like UCLA wasn't even going to make the NCAA tournament, but they'd expanded it to 48 teams, and they were
Hmm.
the very last team to make it, and they went all the way to the finals that year. It was a
Wow.
Cinderella season, and they should have beaten Louisville in the finals. But then his second year, they lost to BYU to Danny Ainge, like in the
yeah.
second round,
That was
and he
tough.
left because at that time I don't think his wife didn't like being in the big city, but he always regretted leaving UCLA, and he had a chance 7 years later to come back, but they let him go back to Kansas, and he couldn't tell the people in Kansas that he was leaving.
Yeah.
So he said, "I'm staying," and there went his UCLA return up in smoke. And he never did coach at Kansas again. He ended up coaching the Spurs that year.
It's just sort of funny. You think you just mentioned that he regretted leaving UCLA. He gets a second chance and still can't do it. So I wonder how much he did regret leaving.
Well, I can say it because I'm Jewish, okay? But he's a sort of what's the stereotype, the neurotic kind of worry about
Yeah,
everything.
like a Woody
Okay.
Allen.
Yeah, the Woody Allen stuff. And yeah, he always would worry about stuff or whatever. So, but it's got a brilliant coach. Oh my
Hell of a
God.
coach. Yeah.
And nicest guy. The first interview I ever did in this business, I was working for the UCLA radio station, was with Coach Brown. He invited me to his office, offered me some candy in his big jar he had, and did an interview with me.
So a grown man was offering a young guy
Yeah,
candy.
when I said that, I thought
That
Bill's mind's
sounds,
going to the
hey, young
gutter.
man, would you like
It's
some
going to the
candy?
gutter.
Do you like movies about Roman gladiators? I mean, what's next?
Yeah. Do you like puppies?
I'm not nuts.
Yeah. Bartos said, I have no intention to compete with John Wooden. His record is a miracle. And like you said, 2 years later, it was just too much. And his time at UCLA came and went rather quickly. Let's move on. Talk a little college football. Texas A&I. Funny enough, the three of us kind of know a little bit about this program in
Yep.
Kingsville, Texas. 12,000 fans braved the rain to watch Coach Gil Stanky's Texas A&I Javelinas, Billy, woo, extend their 22-game winning streak, a testament to small-town pride and dominance. Bill, where did this coach watch the game from?
He watched it from the stands. He watched it up. So what he would do is he would send an assistant down there to tell the people down there what to do. And then the guy would run back and go, okay, I took care of it. That Coach Gilsteinke had said, sitting up in the stands, you have a better view of the game. When you're on the sidelines, you can't see through the players. So he liked to sit in the stands, and people would point him out and go, who's the weird guy that keeps sending another guy down there to talk to the other coach? And it was Gil Steinke.
Makes makes some sense.
There is.
I mean, most coordinators or all coordinators are all up way high so they can see everything. Coaches are just kind of down on the sideline,
Taking their word for the
communicating,
assistant coaches.
Yeah. He was an eccentric dude too, Billy, and also a World War II vet.
Yeah, he went into the Navy after he played at A&I. He became a gunnery officer, served 33 consecutive months at sea in World War II, and was torpedoed on the USS Canberra in the Pacific. The blast only burned off his eyebrows. My God.
Oh, God.
Yeah. They don't make them like that anymore.
Who needs eyebrows? Do
I know,
eyebrows serve a
but I'm just
purpose?
saying,
I'm
you look
wondering.
back in those days, the Ted Williams, the Bob Fellers, and Gil Steinke's, they knew that's just what they had to do to serve their country.
Right.
And there was no, complaining about it. Just you go there and obviously, he got his eyebrows burned off. It's fun to laugh at now, but I mean, just amazing that these guys did this and served the country and still came back and were a success when they came back.
Team goes from 2-8 to champions after a rough 73 season. He changes the offense, he rebuilds the program, and a lot of these guys end up going to the NFL. Mark, you worked side by side, we all did, with one of their more famous alums, a first-round NFL draft pick.
Yeah, defensive back Jim Hill. Besides Jim, Gene Upshaw went there, Darrell Green. They had some Hall of Famers that went there. But it's interesting because Texas A&I is now known as Texas A&M Kingsville. but Gil coached there from 54 to 76 and did just a remarkable job. He was 181 and 62 with 4 ties in his college career. And any guess as to where he finished his college career after coaching at A&I for over 2 decades?
The Detroit Tigers?
Yeah, that's right. He was Sparky Anderson's replacement. No,
the Spurs.
No, but
no, it was in the USFL.
Warm, Bill. Oh my God, you almost got it.
San Antonio. He was in the USFL with San Antonio, wasn't he?
Right. And what was the name of the San Antonio USFL?
The Gunslingers.
The Gunslingers.
Well, the guns were squirt guns.
Yeah, yes. they were slinging. Yes. But anyway, Gil was just a really, good coach, and he actually played on the Philadelphia Eagles team that won the NFL title in 1948. He was a halfback. People haven't heard of his name, but he had his niche in college football. He made the Hall of Fame, the College Football Hall of Fame in '96.
No, I do a lot of research on this, so I found the one they have a camera going on the field when Jim was talking to Gil Stanky at one point.
Oh, is that right?
Amazing. Yeah, he walks in and goes, "Hey, buddy, what do you got going here on the defensive side?" It was just crazy.
This is Gilligan's Island? Hey, buddy.
But no, to be honest with you, I wish I would have known about this article 21 years ago when I first started my time doing spring training for Scott, because I would have known what a javelina was.
You're right. Exactly.
Yeah, what is a javelina again?
It's like a wild boar that will kill you.
Yeah.
I resent that remark. I am not a wild boar, and I would not try to kill you.
Yeah. Here, puppy. Come here. Come here, boy. Where are you going? Then I realized it had tusks.
Yeah. Oh, the people watching you are like, that thing will kill you.
He did. I remember the guy goes, "Do you know what that is?" I said, "No." He goes, "That's a javelina." I said, "What is that?" He goes, "Look at it." And he was like, he turned around, his little head was to the left of me or right of me, and a little big tusk. He goes, "That's going to kill you." And I was within like at least 6 inches from petting its back. And I remember going, "Come here, boy. Come here, puppy."
I lost my hand. Where are my fingers?
I don't know how I would have told Scott, "Hey, thanks for bringing me out. I'm now dead."
Stanky said, "Successful coaches are not the guys who make all the right decisions. They're the guys who make fewer wrong decisions than the losers." And I used to always say, Belichick, I noticed this when watching the Warriors and their championship runs. The Spurs used to do this. A lot of great teams wait for the other team to screw up. They just hang in there, and Russell Wilson then throws an interception, or the Atlanta Falcons do something stupid and the Patriots win. It's amazing how great teams just wait for the other team to beat themselves. And that's kind of what Gil was saying here. So elsewhere in college football, I'm going to talk a little Kansas versus Oklahoma, a chaotic week in college football. Several underdogs toppled top 20 powerhouses. The big one, Kansas over Oklahoma. NC State beat Penn State. Stanford beat SC. Georgia over Florida. Scrambling bowl projections, but the most shocking one was in Norman, where Kansas stunned Oklahoma. It wasn't even close, 23-3, ending the Sooners' 37-game unbeaten streak. Bill, some think this was a pretty big deal.
Yes, player Bud Moore, he went bonkers. He called it, a Kansas player said he called it the greatest victory that has ever been in the history of college football. And then tackle Dave Scott evidently had to jump in on this because he suggested that the game ranked just behind the coming of Christ. Yeah. Jesus is over there. Kansas beats Oklahoma. Not sure how it ranks.
And who led that Kansas attack?
Nolan Cromwell, which I just thought was funny that Nolan Cromwell didn't throw a pass in the entire game. He only threw 49 passes all year.
Yeah. Isn't that insane?
Yeah. Nowadays,
that's 4 passes a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now
that's like Army, I guess, or it used to be. I think Army and Navy actually do throw the ball now. But
Navy definitely throws the ball a lot. Army still runs it most of the time.
Right.
And I could never understand why Air Force can throw the ball. They're the Air Force, not the ground force. They should be throwing the ball.
Yeah, but Kansas coach Bud Moore is the first person to beat Barry Switzer, who said, "We lost it ourselves." It appears like, back then, if you lost a game, your title hopes were in deep trouble. So Oklahoma was looking to repeat as national champions. This is a big blow to that. We'll see how they respond. I love this quote from Switzer's daughter postgame. She said, "Even though you lost, Daddy, I still love you."
And that's probably the greatest, you know what I mean? If the daughter's young, that just feels so good.
Yeah,
Because it was Switzer's first ever defeat as a head coach.
yeah. He didn't have many there.
No.
Let's talk a little league football. Taking the fun out of a game. This week we look back at the rise of Pee Wee football in the 70s when small town pride, big dreams, and grown-up ambition turned kids' games into serious business. What started as backyard fun has evolved into a community obsession, complete with playbooks, film study, and Friday night lights for 10-year-olds. In Massillon, Texas, I think it is, a child learns to block before he learns to spell, according to pro coach or Little League coach Bob Cupp. These people, Billy, are insane.
Yeah, having been around these people, there's nothing they won't do to get to bend the rules. There was one coach that here's what you would have to do. You have to play every player, sort of like AYSO. Every player had to take part in the game. So a certain coach would send two players in, let's say number 50 and number 60. And let's say number 50 is supposed to be the kid that's supposed to play because he's not that good. Well, number 50 would run in, and then another guy, 50 would basically run backwards with number 60 replaced another guy, the guy that he brought in with him, brought out there with him. So basically number 50 never played. And all they would do is check it off. Once a player went into the game, they'd check that number off. They didn't realize that when you send two players in at the same time, one comes off with the two, number 60 would come in, one guy would go off with him, and then number 50 would run back off the field. So it looked like it was all legal. I know that sounds confusing, but
basically number 50 would run onto the field and run off the field.
Yes, that's basically it, because he'd always run in with a different player. So they would just look up and see two players run in and go, okay, there's number 50. He hasn't played. And then they would just, expect two other players to run back, but it was the same guy running in and running out. So the coach never had to play the bad players.
Because it's very important for those 10-year-olds to not play so that their team can win.
Yes. And they said they would just put, like they always do, they take the chubby kid and make him an offensive lineman.
Right.
And a lot of kids are like, no, I want to try different things. But they'd say, nah, you can't do that. You've got to be here. It's terrible.
NFL fullback Larry Zonka, who started playing organized football at age 9, says, "It was the first time I learned about pride, loyalty, and responsibility, and the first time I got my nose broken."
Wow.
But yeah, there's another guy, a coach, that talks about chewing out his players for missed blocking assignments.
Yeah.
Just these kids are 10 years old and he's screaming at them because they blocked the wrong guy. I mean, it's just does not paint a very good picture. And 50 years later, I don't think we've made too many improvements in a lot.
I would think we're worse now because there's social media now.
Yeah.
So, and we've all seen or read or heard about, at the end of games, coaches hitting players and getting in fights and,
Yeah. I mean, we work with one of them. Mark's like that. He's always.
Yeah, I know he is.
God, am I? You asked.
Mark still goes to soccer games and picks fights with coaches, even though his daughter's
little kids,
20,
man.
22 years old now.
I walk up to those 8-year-olds, man, and I say, man, get your act together.
Yeah.
It's even worse.
I find that's the best way to bring a child up is beat them down.
He goes to the musicals that his daughter's in and starts taking on the entire choir.
You got nothing there, fiddle boy.
You call that a high note?
Whistles blow, legends grow. For the record, wow. Whistles blow, legends grow. For the record,
For the record, Mark, go.
For the record, I have got the Toronto Argonauts of the CFL are signing a familiar face to us. Anthony Davis, previous guest on Past Our Prime who had been successful in the World Football League with the Southern California Sun, but that league is now going into the abyss. So he is going to go to Canada and sign with those Argonauts.
Yeah, 1 million 5-year contract, which was, big money back then. And Anthony definitely went chasing the money, and he got good money to play in the WFL as well. But I think if he had to do it over again, he probably would have gone to the NFL then. It kind of derailed his career, and he went from this great college player, and then he's doing really well in the WFL, and this was probably not his best move, but he did get paid. No question about that. Hey, Billy, Alex Grammis. Remember him? He's got a new job.
Yeah, he's third base coach of the Cincinnati Reds. We did a little feature on him in one of our shows a few months back, or a month or so back. He was hired by the Brewers, but after losing 192 games in 2 years, he was fired after the 77 season. And then where did he go back to, Scott?
Wherever Sparky was.
Yep, Cincinnati. How nice to be able to get out of one job and go right back to your old one.
Yeah, like the Josh McDaniels of
yep, always back at the Patriots.
Right, right.
Or Matt Patricia.
And then did he follow Sparky to Detroit?
He did. He did.
Hey,
that's called job security.
I was going to say it. I'm sure he did just fine,
Yes.
Riding Sparky's coattails.
But think how great that is. That basically
worse.
you could go to manage a team and just sort of, if you were good, hey, you get to stay. But it's sort of like, that when, if something doesn't go well, you get to go right back to a guy that obviously has won a couple World Series and would win another one.
Yep.
Not bad.
Faces in the crowd. Each of you have one. I want you to make the case to who's the better one. David Overstreet for you, Mark. Go.
Yes, he's a junior running back for undefeated Big Sandy High in Texas. Averages 235 yards a game. He scored 42 touchdowns in 9 games so far. He's 6'1", 194 pounds. He plays cornerback, and he's come up with 6 interceptions. Well, I remember David Overstreet playing for Oklahoma. His pro career wasn't quite as great. He played in the CFL for the Montreal Alouettes, and 1 year with the Dolphins. He had about 392 yards in his NFL career. But as good of a player he was in college. Listen to this, okay? On October 4th, 1980, when he's playing for the Oklahoma Sooners, he rushes for 258 yards on 18 carries against Colorado. By the way, Colorado scored 42 points in that game and got blown out. They lost to Oklahoma. You ready for this? 82-42. Overstreet had runs of 84 and 53 yards in the contest. That's crazy. And then, of course, unfortunately, his life was cut short. Car accident took him in June of 1984. Just awful. He had a wife. He had a son. He was an assistant coach in the NFL at the time, He was not even 26 years old, 25. He would have turned 26 later.
Wow. Yeah, that's funny. I remember that name for sure.
I do too, from that.
Wow. Yeah. And man, think of that. I think you said 42 touchdowns in 9 games. That's 4.5 a game.
Oh my God.
I bet you there were some there weren't any guys missing their blocking assignments in those games.
They might have had some games they didn't throw past, just like Roland Cromwell.
Yeah,
just give it to David and let him run.
Yeah.
Right? Pat Budney. Who's that, Bill?
He's a senior in high school. He became the first person to swim across Lake Erie on August 20th, 1975.
And he lived
at Presque Isle, where he landed, was renamed Budney Beach in his honor.
Really?
Yeah. And the thing is, I looked him up. You try to, like Mark does, and we all do. You look up and see what else they've done. That was really the only time he did that. He never really swam anymore.
Really?
Yep. So one day he just thought, I'm going to go swim across Lake Erie. He did it and thought, I've done it. I'm done.
Now I'm looking this up right now. The length of Lake Erie is 240 miles.
Oh.
The width is 57. So he probably did that, right? Probably swam at
I would assume, yeah. Yeah, swim across.
But 57.
57 miles. Yeah,
That's 2 marathons and then some.
Yep.
Man, I'm going to call that a tie. Those are both really impressive stories. 19th hole. I don't think we have anything, so let's wrap it up. That's all for this week. Want to thank the Hammer, Dave Schultz, for joining us. Another great example of what the Past Our Prime podcast is all about. The Broad Street Bullies, 2 straight NHL Stanley Cups, thanks in large part to Bernie Perrant and Dave the Hammer Schultz. Great stuff. Hey, everyone, thanks for listening. Remember to subscribe, hit that 5-star button, start a GoFundMe account for Past Our Prime. No, subscribing is enough. We don't need any money.
Yes.
Hey, for Bill, for Mark, I'm Scott. We're done. We are Past Our Prime.